The gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was listening to this debate, and I have some things I agree with the other side, that Congress is not doing its job. Over 90% of our spending is not authorized by Congress, which is our primary duty to authorize spending, and we're not doing our job. So maybe if we have to really spend more time looking at what's happening, maybe we'll start actually doing the important job for the American people. And as a matter of fact, the House majority did pass legislation related to debt ceiling, and it's right now the Senate majority that is not passing their bill, and I think they need to be held accountable because we did pass legislation and Chuck Schumer has to be accountable. Where is his bill? And that's a question should be asked. And then if we think about it, the administrative state grew so much, and it has the power to rewrite laws and now they adjudicate laws, that even Justice Elena Kagan, in her recent opinion, which is justice who was appointed by President Obama, she wrote about, and she was referring to FTC, that FTC knows a good deal about competition policy, but nothing special about the separation of powers. And I think we have to really start thinking about it. Who are the real representatives and what we're allowed to do, to the other branch to write laws on our behalf where people don't have an ability to get rid of the people or even have an input, that maybe not representing their opinion. And we're not expert on every issues here, but ultimately if we need to have experts, we can bring them. Agency can bring, their, regulations to us, proposed rules, and they can, talk about that. But we also need to hear from real people on the ground because we're not legislating for them. They are executive branch to execute the policy the American people want. And if people don't want the policy, the only way they can voice their opinion is through us, through our branch. And if we are not doing our job, people become very, powerless. And if we can see with the growth of the government, the power of the people decrease, and large corporations getting richer and richer, and now we have oligopolies and oligarchs controlling almost every sector of our economy. And this is very dangerous, what we have, because we are turning into the country where all of the power sits in Washington, D.C., and our founding fathers were very afraid of that. So I think our branch should get our act together and start legislating for the people. So I think it's a good legislation, it's a good step forward, but I think we need to do even more, because if we are not going to be doing our job here, then we shouldn't really not be elected to these positions. We should just stay home and not waste taxpayers' money coming here and just doing like talking heads, doing presentations. We are here to legislate on behalf of the people, and people have such a frustration. We actually have a lower approval rating than president does, okay? We can complain about Brett. Congress has a very high disapproval rating, and rightly so. So I hope people will pay attention more what's happening here, and I think we need to support legislation like that. And I support this amendment and support this bill, and I will yield my time to the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Thank you. I think there's just an absolute fundamental difference in philosophy and a complete misunderstanding on the other side of the aisle as to how agencies actually work. We're continuously hearing about the EPA keeping our water safe and our air safe and things like that. The EPA doesn't keep our water safe or our air safe. Those duties are handled by states and municipalities. The Fish and Wildlife Service doesn't manage wildlife. The states and landowners manage wildlife. Using the EPA as an example, the EPA does not focus on clean water. It instead wields its powers trying to dramatically expand its authority in order to take control over things that it has absolutely no legal authority to manage. I'll give you an example. Under the Clean Water Act, it only applies to navigable waters of the United States. Yet I have had lawsuits with the EPA where they've attempted to define irrigation ditches as navigable waters of the United States and brought enforcement actions against farmers who've done nothing more than clean out their irrigation ditches. That's the problem that we are facing. That's where the courts have had to intervene, is that our agencies have been taking more and more power well outside of the statutory authority that has been granted to them by us. And it's through such things as the Chevron deference doctrine that courts have then deferred to their interpretation or misinterpretation of the statutes that they are allegedly applying. What this law does is it just simply states that the legislative branch will legislate, nothing more and nothing less. This is
time of the
I yield back. Thank you.
time of the gentlelady has expired.